Hi, and welcome to The Go-To Girls with your hosts, Lisbeth and Lynn.
This isn't just another podcast for women. This is a gathering place where we're going to share, enlighten, and laugh together as we nurture and nourish deep friendships with our listeners.
Women need spaces where they can be authentic, honest, curious, and feel supported. This podcast will remind the listener that life is just beginning and there is so much out there waiting for us to experience.
And every week we will share more stories, we'll share knowledge and our dreams, and most importantly, our hearts with this Go-To Girls community.
So settle in wherever you are as we begin our conversation that is intended to inspire, enlighten, and fill your soul.
Welcome back to the Go-To Girls with Lisbeth and Lynn. So today we have, I was going to say an exciting episode, but I don't know that I would call it exciting, but I would say it's a very relevant episode that I think lots of our listeners can relate to. And that is how to handle disappointment and or rejection. So when we look at that topic, I feel like we're taking on this big excavator, if you will, because we go through that many times in life where whether it's someone that's disappointed us, whether it's something that we had planned that we had worked really hard for, and now it's not working out the way that we wanted to, and so we are disappointed. It doesn't mean that it's always other people disappointing us. Sometimes it's us just being disappointed at a turnout of something that we had envisioned, and now it's changed. And the reason I wanted to include the rejection in there is because when we feel rejected for something, that disappointment that comes with it, it could be a relationship, for example, where we really wanted a relationship or we felt close to somebody and they're not reciprocating, they're not feeling that same energy or that same way. It feels like a weight. That's the best way I can explain it. It feels like just you have this cart and big boulder has just been dropped in it.
Yeah, it's painful. It's painful. Yeah.
So go ahead. What's coming to you? I felt like all of a sudden the lights came on. I was like, yeah, I can relate to that. What's coming for you, Lynn?
I can think of a million times I've been rejected or
no, but that's an important point because it happens so often throughout our life, doesn't it?
Yeah, like it's inevitable. You're going to suffer pain and rejection and disappointment. It's just life, but it's how you handle it that matters, right? And how you view it. I think I can remember even as a kid trying to get my dad, for example, to let me do something specific. Like I remember one time I had a dog and I wanted to, he was tied up outside sometimes during the day, but I wanted to move locations to a different area. And I would write my dad letters to explain what I wanted to have happen and reasons why and so on. So I'd write this really long-winded letter and give them to him. And then he'd either say yes or he often said no. Anyway. Yeah. And then I remember when I was like 15 wanting to go to this place called Playland Park. It was like a club for teenagers, but no alcohol or anything, just like a little dance club that was in Brockville. And he wouldn't let me go. Like every time I tried. And my mom kept all these letters. My dad, when I was older, said, you would have been a great lawyer because he said you pleaded your case so
did
well.
My dad. My dad would always say, Lisbeth, you've got a mouth like no one else. You need to be a lawyer.
Like I really elaborate pleading of cases and he thought I would have been a great lawyer. But it was funny because my mom kept those and I've reread them and I thought, oh my God, wow, yeah. I was persistent. And so I learned about disappointment and rejection at a young age because my dad almost always said no to whatever it was I wanted to do. And not unreasonably. He was just worried that a 16-year-old girl shouldn't be out at these clubs at night at that age. So that's okay. I get it now, but at the time I didn't see it that way.
No.
And then later on, applying to university and schools and jobs and lots of rejections and disappointment as a result of that. Yeah. And so my lesson learned, I think, at a young age is that rejection doesn't equal failure. Rejection is a positive thing because it means you're out there trying, right? You're out there trying. If you want to, being a salesman is a great way to numb yourself to rejection.
Yeah. No,
I remember as a young person, the number of times I had no's was crazy. And that's the thing. Like if someone says no, or you're rejected by someone, or asking someone out on a date or whatever it might be, no, it just means that situation wasn't a fit, right? That the circumstances weren't a fit for you, and so you got to know.
Yeah.
But some people say we use being a salesperson as an example. If you're going to go knock on a couple of doors and try and sell something, for example, and they say no, you can. After the fifth or sixth door, maybe you think, I'm terrible at this. I'm never going to be any good. And you feel sad and rejected and everything else. And then you just stop knocking on the doors. Well, that is just going to mean that you're never going to be able to build a meaningful, vibrant life, because if you aren't trying to open as many doors as you can for yourself, and you just give up because you're being rejected and having no to you all the time, then you'll never get anywhere in your life. You won't achieve anything. Because you have to look at it as if you have 100 no's, eventually there'll be a yes. So you have to think in terms of, I might get 100 no's, but if I keep trying, I might get a yes. So, and then if I have to knock on 200 doors, I maybe get 2 or 3 yeses instead of a no's. And you just really have to numb yourself, not take it personally, right? Having a no just means that you weren't a fit for what that person was wanting from you, right? So, and then you just don't get discouraged. I think the best thing you can do for your kids is to have them do things where they're going to potentially get no's, and then they become immune to it. So that I always view getting no's as fun, because it's just, I'm putting myself out there. I'm trying to get somewhere, or do something, or get a job, or achieve a sales in my work or whatever. And I never take the no personally. It just makes me sit back and reflect, okay, maybe I'm not, if I've got 100 no's, maybe there's something I need to do a little differently to try and achieve a yes. And you learn from the no's, and you try and create circumstances.
How do you not take it personally?
Because it isn't personal. It's not, like I said, it's not that you're a bad person or a failure or you're not good at something. It just means that person who said no, you're just not a fit. I think that's the best way of looking at it. Is that whether it's a job or someone who you're asked out on a date or whatever it might be. It's not that you're a bad person or that you're a failure or you're not good. It just means that person doesn't see you or what you have to offer as something they want or need right now. So,
and I think that's the key, because isn't that what people do, is they take it personally?
They really do. Yeah. Some people,
it's a rejection really to them as a person, to what they have to offer, to who they are. And that's a really important lesson, I feel, is to recognize that it means absolutely nothing towards you as a human being, or your heart, or your abilities, because that's what we tend to do, is beat ourselves up, or something happens that we just weren't expecting, and it's like, how didn't we see it? Like, how did I not see that this wasn't going to work out? Or how did I not see that this person is this way? And I know for myself, when that happens, I love to see the best in everybody. That's just the way my eyes see. And even though that person may do something that's not really, it's not something I would ever do, or in a way that I would ever treat somebody. And when I see them do that, now there's a recognition that it's not about me. It says more about their personality. Maybe they're working through some ego stuff. Maybe there's some narcissism there, whatever it is that they're dealing with, or maybe they're having problems at home, and so they come and take it out on other people, whatever that energy is. But I can tell you, I've almost spent a lifetime taking it personally. They don't like me, or I'm not good enough for them. And I still, when that happens, I have to take a moment and, like I said, take a few days and just recognize that this is about them. And sometimes those needs just don't match up for what my needs are and what their needs are. And other times it may be that they feel threatened or intimidated, or again, that ego energy comes in. They're too good for me type of thing.
Yes.
And in those moments, it's hard to just swallow that. because that ego wants to let them know what I'm thinking and feeling. But I've learned for many years that don't even waste your energy.
Yeah.
Don't even, like, I'm talking to myself, don't even waste my energy, because they're not in a place where they can even begin to receive you. And they've made it very clear they don't care. So all I'm doing is just losing my own energy.
Yeah. I think a great way to verify what you just said is true is to, I remember reading online somewhere, I think you can just look it up, like Google it. There's rejection letters that people have received, and these people are like wildly successful now. The people that you admire and you want to be like, or you want to, if you, a lot of them have published their rejection letters. I can remember a couple. One is, I've forgotten the name of the record company, but a record company wrote a rejection letter to a band, and they said they felt like guitar playing bands are passé now. They're not going to be successful much longer, and they didn't think that they would want to, or they didn't want to take on this band because they just thought they were never going to be popular and no one's going to listen to them, and the whole guitar band thing's fading away anyway. And that was a rejection letter for the Beatles.
Wow.
And then there was the U2 and Lady Gaga. They've all got published their rejection letters. It's really fun to see. Or I think what was the other one? Oh yeah, KFC, Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
He had over 1,000 restaurants reject him before somebody took on his amazing crispy fried chicken recipe.
Wow.
And Michael Jordan, you know how famous he is, and a great basketball player. He was rejected by his high school varsity team. They wouldn't let him play because he wasn't good enough.
Wow.
That just emphasizes the fact that it doesn't even necessarily mean that you're not
Meryl
capable.
Streep is another one. She was told she was never going to act because she was too ugly.
Yeah, I think there's.
Are you kidding me?
You know,
She's a legend.
I remember there was a man, I don't even remember his name now either. Sorry, I'm terrible with the names. But the man went to Facebook to get a job, and he was rejected. And then he posted on Facebook that, hey, Facebook just rejected me from a job, but I'll keep trying. And then he went to Twitter, and they rejected him. And he wrote on Twitter, Twitter's rejected me too. They're not willing to hire me. And he says, it's okay. It was too long a commute anyway. And then I think it was 4 or 5 years later, he started his own business. 4 or 5 years later, he sold it to Facebook for, I think it was $7 billion. And it was the guy who created WhatsApp.
Oh,
you know, so
gosh.
he even publicized all his rejections and still ended up being successful. So the point being is that it could be about you not being the right fit, or them having the wrong impression of you, or them having the wrong impression of what you're doing for a business, or when you're meeting somebody and you're looking to go on a date, they're only seeing you superficially and they may misjudge you, or you're just not a fit for them. They don't feel attracted to you, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. It's almost always about them. And so for me, not taking it personally is easy. People could say anything to me, anything, even awful things, and I never take it personally because I know who I am and I'm not that person. So no, I get it. I find that the rejection and accepting the no's has never been an issue for me for that reason. Yeah.
I go back to the energy of disappointment, because because we've talked a lot about rejection. So I want to just set you up some scenarios that you've really worked hard on something, and it's a goal that you've had, and you've put all of your time and your energy and your love into that, and it just falls apart. Or everything that you had envisioned, that you had spent time on, or maybe you've been applying for a job and you've really been focused and you've spent a year or two trying, and it doesn't work out. And that disappointment, that feeling of just feeling gutted.
Yeah.
And that's a good word for it.
Yeah.
Because really that's what it feels like, is gutted. When I go into that energy and I sit with that, there's deep in that pit of me that says that I was meant to learn lessons from that. I was never aligned for it. And never to think that whatever energy I put into it was a waste. That's what comes through, because you have to look what you learned along the way, the people you met along the way, the experiences you had along the way. And it was never really about that end goal of whatever it was that you were trying to create. Maybe it was a job you're trying to get, whatever that energy was. And learning to come into that full acceptance. So rather than feeling that gutted, and it's hard because you do have to work yourself through it, but not allowing yourself to stay that way or to walk away having a negative, I should never have done that, I wish I'd never done that, or look at all the time I wasted in this, or look at the money that I spent on that, whatever it is. Not allowing yourself to get into that self-defeating mode and self-judgment and self-criticism, and really looking at the positives that came from that and resetting yourself, like we talked about, taking time to really reset, and then move forward with those lessons and throw away those experiences, but take the lessons so that your next endeavor, your next goal, your next relationship, that you really have that refined, that part of yourself refined, because you've learned from it.
Oh, yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think it's really important that when you are disappointed or have been rejected or whatever the case may be, that you do sit with it and acknowledge it. Like, it's not easy to just, because like I say, it can really feel like you got a punch in the gut. Like, it really hurts.
Yeah.
And so it's okay. It's like other feelings that you might have, just not feeling great in yourself for whatever reason. It's important to acknowledge the pain and the suffering that you're experiencing, because it's real. It's physically real in your body. If you're like trying to get a job and you find out that they aren't going to hire you, you can see how it affects people's body. That might be for days.
It happened to my son like a half a year ago.
Slumping, and you're physically suffering because of it. Yeah.
My one of my sons was told he got a job at a restaurant, and so he went there and worked, and he came home, said he had this job, and then the next time he went back, he got an envelope with money in it and said they wouldn't be needing his services anymore because they picked somebody else. Like, never going back to that restaurant. But who does that? Yeah. And this is with young kids. It's really crazy. So especially in today's world, young kids are really learning rejection. Well, they're getting, Jeremy's been trying for a year and a half now to get a full-time electrical apprenticeship, and talk about rejection. He's a master at it, to the point where you kind of go and reflect and saying, maybe I'm not meant to do this anymore. Maybe I'm meant to focus my energy and my passion and my intention somewhere else. But you become good at rejection. Like you said, you become desensitized to it, right?
And that's the thing,
but it's the disappointment when you set yourself up for something and if you really thought you got the job, like the interview went very well. And that happened to him too. He had an interview, went really well. He felt really good that he was going to get the job. And they came back to him and said, you're the first person on our list to be hired. When it picks up, those jobs that we were anticipating got delayed. And so the good news is you're first on the list. The bad news is you still didn't get the darn job. But all the work you put in to prepare for that interview, all the time you took. In this case, he drove 2 hours to the interview.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This was up north somewhere. And all that anticipation, and then that happens. It's just, I think it's an important topic, and this is why we picked to talk about it, because it's a reality. Take it in older, like you said, whether we are dating at an older age and trying to find a special someone, and you don't have to be older, you can be younger for this as well, and just feeling like, because now it's an outline, right? You have to tell how tall you are, and the other person has to say what's the minimum height you're willing to accept. It's unbelievable. I wouldn't want to have to do it.
No, remember that story I told you on another episode? My
Lord.
My friend who, there was lots of no's have happened, like disappointments and no's, because the people she was lining up with on the website just weren't right for her or good for her.
Yeah.
But it was because she'd framed herself badly. She made it look like her interest in who she was in a way that was going to attract her ex-husband, the man who left her, right? It's just because all she'd known, right? Her interest in working out and exercise and this and that and this kind of travel or that kind of travel, that was all her past life. That's how she lived her past life with her ex-husband. She didn't put down what she really feels until that time. I encouraged her to try again, and she just was in a rush, so she just put down all the stuff that was based on actually what her new life was about, was camping and canoeing, and then she attracted the right person, and it was a big yes from that, and they got married and they're happy as can be. Sometimes you're just walking your path the way you always walk it, and you have to, if you get 100 no's and you still haven't got a yes, you may need to reflect on what needs to change, because you may be approaching it in a way that isn't being true to yourself. Right. And people can feel that, or it resonates from you, right? Sure. So when you say you have to learn from it, you do, for sure. Right. Try and find out if there's, you just said with your son, like maybe it isn't the path he should be on. No. Maybe he should try a few other things. Keep trying, but try some other things as well. Like take the experience and shake it up a little bit. See if you can present yourself totally differently. With you. And make sure that you're expressing yourself as to who you are, not some creation of what you think you should be in the situation. You need to be yourself, and you need to learn from all the experiences you're having, and be persistent. Anyone who, the more no's you get in your life, the happier you're going to be, because it means you're out there trying. Yeah. If you hardly have any no's in your life, then you may not ever evolve to where you need to or want to go, because it means you're not going out there and putting yourself out there.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love what you're saying with that. It is really important to have awareness of the source of that disappointment, the source of that rejection, and evaluate it from like a zoomed out look. In other words, not be a character in the play, but rather just observe the situation and then take it for the situation that it is, rather than taking it personally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I just want to really put it out there that when it does happen in the immediate moment, I totally recognize that feeling. Yeah. And how, it's like,
I feel like I remember reading that when they do scans of your brain and then see how it lights up in different ways. Okay. I'm pretty sure that when you suffer disappointment and rejection, it's exactly the same part of your brain that lights up that is your pain center. Okay. Because we all as humans want to belong and want to be part of something, right? And so back prehistorically, if you were rejected from your group, you were going to probably die, because you're going to be out there in the world by yourself with no protection of the group. And so apparently it's an actual physical, it's a part of your nervous system, is that when you want to be part, you want to be accepted, you don't want to be rejected. It's something that's an actual physical need, that was a physical need, not necessarily now, but your body still reacts to it the same way. So rejection and getting these no's actually lights up the same part of your nervous system as physical pain.
Really? Right? That's interesting.
I remember that, seeing that.
See, so now you know that to the audience.
So it is actually like getting a punch in the gut when you get disappointed.
Well, you know what? That would really explain it, because that is what it feels like, right? Yeah. And to think like we're just supposed to flower it up. No, it takes time to I just got hit. Yeah. So I love
I talked to a friend once about this, and I said, let's go do, because I could see that she was not handling the rejections well and the no's well. So I said, we need to toughen you up with becoming more resilient and not taking everything so personally when you're getting rejected. So I said, we need to do the rejection game. So I did it a few times. It's really fun. We went to stores or coffee shops or whatever, and we would ask for a discount, a 30% discount. And so when you go and ask a store for that, most of the time they'll say, oh, no, we can't. Why do you want a discount? I just, it'd be nice to have a discount. Yeah. And I felt like we were resonating together, and maybe you might give me a 30% discount. You try and sell it. And then, no, I can't. We're not allowed to, blah, blah. So it's a way of going, and we did that in stores as well. And then I had her do it until she got used to hearing the no's. Occasionally we got a yes, which was fun. But it's great. It sounds silly, but you're just hardening yourself to the rejection or the no's, right? Because we can't, some people are very sensitive to that. They really take it personally.
I can tell you I was.
Yeah, I really take it personally. So you can play the rejection game like that by yourself and just see, because then you become you get accustomed to accepting the no's.
Yeah. And I still, when it happens, I still need time to sit. Not everyone. It depends who it is, right? If it's somebody that either you felt you were close to, or somebody you felt really respected you, or somebody you thought you had a good working relationship with, whatever that energy is. So it depends on the situation, but then you just catch yourself in it. And then it's almost like your head does a spin, and you have to just take a second to screw it on straight and say, okay, this just happened. Like you said, a lot of people, they just don't even care. They just go on. But women do tend to take this to heart a little bit more. And it's just to honor that piece, but definitely working through those tools. And that's why just really sitting, again, journaling, meditating, going in nature and just ruling that energy out, and then just take the lessons from that, learn, refine yourself for the next experience, right?
Yeah. I have had it happen too with family. During COVID, I had a family member that completely rejected me, and I've never spoken to them since.
No.
Someone close to me. Yeah,
No.
because we disagreed on
The
aspects
vaccines.
of the
Yeah,
vaccine
yeah.
and stuff. And I've never spoken to her since, so it's been 6 years.
I wonder how she feels now that some things are coming out. Not that we're going to talk
No,
about
I
it,
don't.
but
Let's not get into that.
No.
Yeah, we will one day.
But it will be- it's just interesting, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and so we still haven't talked. And
Yikes. I
yeah,
heard
and it
that a
was-
lot, though.
Yeah, it happened to quite a few people.
I think, there was definitely a Splitsville there for many people.
Yeah,
But-
I think that time was a real lesson in rejection and
No,
disappointment.
and I think it was a real lesson in who people really are, right? And
Yeah.
it wasn't about what side of the fence you were on, but it's how people's personalities really came out and
Yeah.
roared. And
Yeah.
that was shocking to me. But that's another episode for
But I
another
did
day.
handle the disappointment in the rejection fine. And like I let myself feel the sadness and the
Yeah.
loss of the
Yeah.
relationship. And I did sit with that for sure.
Yeah.
But I just remain hopeful that at some point it'll pass enough for her that we
Well,
can
maybe
get
she'll
together
listen
again.
to this episode and she might reach
I
out.
better
Who
tell her
knows?
to listen. Yeah.
Anyway, Lynn, it was great chatting with you again, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and don't forget to like and subscribe and share. Thanks so much. Till next week.